So what we looking at is the bubble sort, right? We're looking at the bubble sort, and the bubble sort contains, like we saw in the class, as two loops. One is the outer loop. This is the outer loop we're talking about. Outer loop. Then it has an inner loop. So if we take here, so it has this inner loop which does the one iteration, scans through the data, and it finds whichever the maximum. So the maximum value will always bubble up to the rightmost, right? No matter what happens, this is the inner loop. In the inner loop, the maximum element will go to the right, extreme right. And similarly, if you have, let's say, if you have 5 elements, right? If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in one iteration, the maximum value in the array will always go to occupy the extreme right, isn't it? And in this case, 5 in the iteration 1. The second iteration, the second maximum will go and occupy the 4th index, isn't it? It will go here. The third iteration, the maximum element, whichever the next maximum, will go and occupy the 3rd one, isn't it? And in the 4th iteration, the maximum value, which is the 4th maximum, will occupy the 2nd index. And of course, you don't have to do the last iteration because the last iteration remains the same in its place, right? So technically, if you have 5 elements, you do only 4 iterations, right? If you have n elements, the number of iterations you go always n minus 1. So we have 2 for loops, right? We have 2 for loops. One is a inner loop, the other one is the outer loop. So here we have, and if you see here, the outer loop goes from j from 1 to n minus 1, and the inner loop goes from i1 to n minus 1. And we checked if data I is greater than the next element, we swap. If it's true, we swap. And if it falls, we don't swap. So this inner loop will always find the maximum value at each iteration. And the outer loop will go over n minus 1. And the one you will be doing in the lab is, if the elements is already sorted, right? Let's say we have data I greater than data I minus I plus 1. If we never, if it is always false, that means the previous element is always less than I plus 1, that is always false. In one iteration, if we never swap, right, we never went through this block at all. We never went through this block. That means what? That means the array is already sorted. That's why here it is. I start with false, and I keep continuing. If we never swapped at all, the swap value will remain false. That means the array is already sorted, right? So we don't sort at all, we stop. That's why we are using this additional variable called swapped, right? But if we ever swap, that means true, that means we need to go one more iteration. All right, so let's do this in the lab based on instructions I gave you in the class. So here declare a variable swapped ones or swapped, whatever that, let's say swapped. We keep doing that, right? So do this, and we have an outer loop. We have an outer loop here, and we declare a swapped boolean. This would be boolean, not integer. Sorry. And this is the inner loop. So we can say this is the inner loop, right? And this is the outer loop. So go over this video and see how I do it. You don't really need this thing, but I'm printing the sorted values, and that's all I have. You don't need it here actually. You just need to print at the bottom, right? And so here it is. If we ever swap, I set that to true. All right. Thank you.